Listen to this episode if you are making sales, but you don't feel like your bank account is ever growing. You have sales flowing in, you see that your sales are increasing, but it just doesn't feel like you're getting off of that treadmill of always feeling broke in your business. Today, we're really diving into profit and numbers and pricing and all of those pieces. And I know that this is not a sexy topic. And honestly, I commend you for even listening to this podcast episode right now, because many people won't, because they just hate their pricing. They hate the money side. They hate the financial side. But trust me, you only hate it until you start to make money. And then it starts to become fun. And how you start making money and how you actually get off of this broke treadmill is that you actually start having an awareness around the pieces that we are going to talk about today. So what today is going to look like is I am going to talk about the signs that you probably have a leaky bucket somewhere in your business. I'm going to talk about the major places that I look when someone comes to me with this problem. And then we're going to talk about what to do, kind of what your auditing process really is and some of your next major steps. You're going to leave today with a little bit of a bug for you to start actually looking at your numbers, because if you look at your numbers will grow. If you have no awareness of your financials, it's going to be really hard for you to actually grow your money situation inside of your business. It's something that we have to do in business. It's something that makes a really big difference. And it's something that is actually very empowering, and it will get you to reach your goals sooner. Whether you look at your numbers all the time or your numbers right now are truly none of your business, today's episode will be helpful for you. We're just going to kind of dive in. We're going to dive into the common reasons that happen and what to do instead. This question actually was submitted by a listener. Her name is Tammy. She's part of our Business Cafe, which is our free podcast community. You can click the link in the show notes to join. Basically, it's a space where you can connect with other business owners, connect with me. We have monthly coaching sessions in there, completely free. And it's just a great place to connect with other ambitious people. If you are ambitious and you don't have a circle of friends that you can chat with, that you can ask for feedback on with some of these things, people that just really get it, that's what this is for. Tammy said, I have had really good fall and winter sales, yet when I look at my bank account, I don't understand why it doesn't seem to be growing. Admittedly, I don't know my numbers well, but it should be growing by now. How do I get a handle on this? Tammy, you're not alone. I know many people out there are shaking their head alongside of you, saying, yes, this is me as well. I see my sales growing, but I don't see my bank account growing. I don't see my profit growing. What do I do? How do I get a handle on this? We're going to cover this today. And just before we dive into that, I want to take 10 quick seconds to say hello. My name is Madison Page. Just in case you're new here, I am the host of the Small Business Growth Podcast. And here we teach how to turn your small business into a brand, because every brand out there, that brand you look up to started as a small business, but they have to use certain frameworks and formulas in order to become the household name that they are today. And we are here to teach you those major things. So when I first look at this, I first want to look at the signs that you probably have a pricing problem, something that we have to discuss here, because there's some major pieces. Now, if you were to come to me, Tammy, and say these things, this is where I'm at, nothing's growing, I would ask you 4 major questions. First is, what is your profit margin per product? Basically meaning, how much money are you making every single time you make a sale? I, of course, would ask you according to that, including your labor, your overhead, and your costs of goods. So not just cost of goods sold with your pricing, with labor, with overhead, with other pieces inside of that. What is your overall profit margin per product? Because if that's too low, you're always going to be on this treadmill. Second is, what are your expenses each month? Whether your softwares, with your rent, with your supplies, any major retainer people that you have, independent contractors, labor, things like that. What are your expenses every month? What sales channels are you making most of your sales on? Because if you're selling on Etsy, if you're selling on Faire, if you're selling on Amazon mostly, they take a really big percentage of every sale. And so we have to look at that. And then last but not least is, do you have separate bank accounts for your business versus your personal? Because if those two things are intermixed, this is a bigger issue than what we can discuss today. Not to say, you'd be really surprised how many businesses that have 6 figures are still operating out of a personal bank account. But if those two things are intermixed, it's going to be really tough to ever make true profit in your business. Why? Is because some of that money's going to groceries, some of that money's going over to, pay your heating bill. There's all of these other things that's going to, that it's really hard to actually get a true judge. So profit margin per product, expenses each month, current sales channels, and separate business bank accounts. Most of the time, my number one place to look here is going to be your pricing. Unless you tell me, yeah, I'm spending $20,000 a month on employees and I'm only making $8,000. Yeah, no kidding that your profit isn't growing. What we are really looking at here most of the time is a pricing issue. Now, I just want to preface this episode by saying this is a safe space. I have seen it all in business at this point when it comes to pricing and numbers. I have had business owners that are making $2 million a year that are actually losing money. I have had brand new startups come to me that are losing $80,000 to $50,000 a month because they have all of these independent contractors that are running everything for them. So just know this is a safe space. I am here to try to help you. I am here to really coach you through this and to just like provide awareness to some of these pieces. So if you are going through this and you're saying, holy cow, Maddie, my numbers are an absolute disaster, that's okay. Let's just fix it. I'm not going to be somebody that's here to judge you on any of these. So if you do have questions, as always, come to me. Please go to my Instagram at This Is Madison page. I would love to hear from you and answer your questions on these pieces. What I really want to cover first is I want to cover the signs that it's most likely a pricing problem, because 80% of the time it is. The next thing is we're going to talk about how to change it. And we're really going to discuss what are the major steps in how to change this problem and what if it is some of these other pieces here. First things first, when it comes to these signs, is that you have priced it according to what everyone else is pricing theirs at, because you are not everybody else. You aren't that brand that gets to order 50,000 units from their manufacturer. That's just not how it works for you. So you can't just go and look on Etsy, look on Google and see what everybody else is charging for your product and say, yeah, middle of the road, let's slap that on there. Sounds good. That's what I'm going to do too. If you do that, you aren't actually putting any formula behind it. So it allows for a lot of gray area of what's actually possible for you. The next one is that you're not taking into account other costs outside of raw materials. If you heard me say, when I said profit margin per product, I said this includes some labor, this includes some overhead, and this includes all of your costs, even your shipping materials, the little papers that you put in every package, all of that has to be within your overall profit margin, and it has to be within your pricing because it is going a variable cost per every item. We have to take that into account. This is my absolute least favorite, and I have heard all sorts of them, is that you are following some crazy formula that you got either off of Etsy or you found on TikTok or something like that, that's like double your costs and add $15. There is no rhyme or reason to that. We need to put some strategy behind this. Pricing strategy is a thing. And by doubling everything and adding $10 or just by tripling your costs of everything does not mean that this is actually a healthy profit margin. Okay, there's a lot of other pieces that go into pricing than just taking your costs and doubling it and adding an arbitrary number to have a buffer for every time that you have a discount. The next one is that you're trying to be as affordable as possible. What is affordable to me is different than what's affordable to you, which is different than what's affordable to Oprah, right? Like Oprah can say that this is affordable and that's not affordable to me. We have different levels of affordability. So we can't price something off of something that is relative. And so if you're trying to be affordable, odds are you're trying to go at the very bottom of the market of your competitors. And unless you have a different cost than all of your competitors, which I'm assuming you don't have a lower cost than everybody else, it's going to be really hard to actually make that sustainable and really build for the longevity of things. The next one is that you have no idea why you price it the way that they are. You were like, yeah, sounds like a good number, love it, call it good. I commend you, I love you, but not allowed, right? We can't do that. We got to have a little bit of rhyme or reason behind some of these pieces. Next one is that you aren't taking into account perceived value. This is something that's really important and it's not often talked about when it comes to pricing. But if I go on Amazon right now and I go to buy a pair of yoga pants, I have a number in my head of what I would expect to pay for Amazon yoga pants. Now, if I go on to Aritzia to go buy a pair of yoga pants, I don't even know if they sell yoga pants, but I do. Go under Aritzia to buy yoga pants. I have a perceived value because of the name Aritzia and because of the brands and what I know about the brand that I'm going to pay on Aritzia. And then if I go to some fancy, sustainable, blah, 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 and it's 100% cotton and it has all of these other little sustainable yada, 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 I also have a perceived value because of those things. And so if you have special elements of your brand, special features that you do, special values that your brand has, special things that you attribute to, there's a value to that. But you also can build that value just on brand. And so right now, I have clients all the time that I say, your branding is luxury. Why is that product $15? That doesn't make sense for your $100 major hero product for that product to be $15. It has to match up with the perceived value of it. If somebody came to me and said that they had the cure for cancer, like it's $5, I would say, yeah, right, this is a scam. But if somebody came to me and said, I have the cure for cancer, it's $5,000 or $500 a pill, I would be like, okay, that sounds about right. So you actually, by pricing your products low or by pricing your products the way that they are, might not actually be allowing for your audience to trust you because you're too bottom of the market, right? And so sometimes, we have these products that we're like, what's the catch? Even on Amazon, if I shop on Amazon, I'm a big Amazon gal. I love me some Amazon. I'm refurnishing my house. If you can't tell, I'm in a new studio. We just moved to a new house. I've been on Amazon a lot. There's been things that I'm not buying the cheapest one on Amazon because I'm skeptical. I saw a throw blanket last night that was at $8.99 for like a queen size throw blanket. I was like, why is that so cheap? I'm not buying that. There's got to be something wrong with it, right? And so what we're looking at here is pricing is not just an arbitrary number. It's a formula, but it's also an art. As everything, that I'm really big on this, that business is a constant balance between science and art. Pricing is no different. We have to be able to identify that. Hey, I'm jumping in here for 30 quick seconds for those of you who are loving the podcast but wish we could dive deeper into every episode topic together. I have actually started a completely free podcast community called the Small Business Cafe for exactly this purpose. Inside this community, we dive deeper into every podcast episode, provide bonus resources, and actually host completely free monthly coaching calls with me. So you can get your questions answered. Plus, you get to submit your questions for our Friday coaching session episodes and connect with other founders too. If you have been loving being a part of this podcast and want to connect with other brand founders, plus get extra support from me, click the link in the show notes below to join. Last but not least is that you are primarily wholesale focused right now. If you are only selling in wholesale capacities, and you don't have a direct-to-consumer channel, odds are it's going to be really hard unless your profit margin is 80 to 90% plus for you to ever really have the longevity or the sustainability with your current pricing structure. So what I see happen a lot is that a lot of people out there tell you to just go and push wholesale. Wholesale is your way to grow your business. You'll make good sales. Sure, you might be making $10,000 a month in sales right off the bat because you have a lot of these wholesale orders, but immediately your profit is cut more in half. Your literal price is cut in half, which means your profit is a really small percentage of that. For some people, it's 10, some people it's 15, 20%, which is really, really low. So if you never actually take the time to grow your direct to consumer, wholesale is more for distribution and it's more for visibility. It's not really for the profit and the sustainability of your business. What I would recommend you do is grow direct to consumer with full profit sales and then expand into wholesale from a distribution capacity, but understanding that there is authority and that there is some visibility when it comes to expanding in those other realms. But we have to really look at that. If you're primarily wholesale focused right now, we want to look at that. Really, at the end of the day, if any of those spoke to you, if you're like, yeah, Maddie, I have no idea my profit margin per product, this is probably a pricing structure issue. If you are priced right and not overspending, your bank account should be growing. If you obviously have the right amount of money coming in and the right amount of money going out, you should be seeing your bank account grow. As your sales grow, they should be growing. If your sales are growing and your bank account is not growing, that tells me it's a pricing issue because you have more money coming in. You shouldn't have more variable expenses going out at that sense, but you do because your cost of your products are outweighing the actual profit that you have in there. You would be really surprised, and it hurts me all of the time, how many people I have come to me in this exact problem. And we actually find out that every single sale that they have been making for 6 months, 3 months, 3 years, whatever, they were actually losing money on. They were actually never profiting anything. And so they had just been busy and they had been growing their revenue, but they didn't actually grow their profit. I would rather you make $100,000 in revenue and make $20,000 in profit than make $500,000 in revenue and make $40,000 in profit. Because at that point, you're just busy. You're not actually profiting much. That is too low of a percentage that you're just paying to be busy at that point. You might have quantity, but we don't have quality of sales at that point. And it's going to be really hard to dig yourself out of that ever. At that point, we need to look at your pricing. We need to look at your expenses. And so a lot of times the major culprit is your pricing, but it could be other things. If you're overspending, if you've overhired too soon in your business, or you're just overspending, maybe you love some fun little things in your business, you kind of have the shiny object syndrome, or maybe you're paying out a whole bunch of stuff in one area versus the other. It could be an expenses problem. Maybe your rent is really, really high. That's another one that I see, is that people jump too quickly into having like this rental studio that they're not able to actually make money on. It also could be that you are looking at your sales channels and that you're never actually making a full profit sale. Whether this is Etsy, whether this is Faire, whether this is Amazon, they take a really big percentage of every sale. So if your profit margin isn't high enough to allow for Faire to take 50% off and then another 25%, if you don't have a 90% profit margin, it's really going to be tough for you to be on Faire. And so understanding that some of these sales channels are not built for every single business. And so what I really want you to do, how to change this, I know that this can feel very doom and gloom, and I do just want to give a disclaimer here that there is an average amount of months to years that product-based business owners are not profitable. It is normal to be not profitable to start. It doesn't have to be that way. Plenty of my clients, we get them profitable upon actually like having sales flowing in, upon growth, because we have their pricing structured. We have all of this stuff really mapped out for them. But it is normal. On average, it takes product-based businesses 2 to 3 years to actually become truly profitable. But that doesn't mean that it has to be that way. That doesn't mean that that has to be your reality. But if you are investing in your business, if you are investing in labor, if you are investing in growth, if you are investing in, a strategy, if you are investing in people to help you in certain areas, product photography, it's common and it's normal to have expenses. We do have to invest in our business, but we have to be able to identify, what are we getting out of it? Is there a return on that investment? I have a lot of episodes about how to tell when you're ready to invest and how to tell if it's a good investment. You can go and look at those. But how to change this? I have a 4-step process of what we do. First is I want you to look at your income statement. We cannot manage something that we have not measured. You cannot manage something that we have not measured. This goes for data. This goes for your finances. This goes for, we need to know how much is coming in and how much is coming out. And I know that this is difficult, but we are not in this world to be comfy all the time. Looking at your money and your finances and your budget is uncomfy because it calls us out a little bit. We have to call ourselves out. We have to do that because at the end of the day, if you're not profiting, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. You have something that you're just like keeping yourself busy with, and that's not what we're in the game for. Next is looking at your margins. Once we look at your income statement to look monthly, what's going in and what's coming out, so we can really see what the culprit is, we have to look at our pricing margins. What is your true profit margin, taking into an account labor, into every cost, and a little bit of your overhead? There's some things in overhead that you can sink in there. Look at your margins. Are they actually good? Like, are they above 60%? Are they above 70%? What is your margin? And is it actually a good profit margin? And then look at your pricing. With that current margin, what price does it need in order to actually be truly profitable? If your margin is too low, what would a 75% profit margin look like? What would an 80% profit margin look like? Can we price our products at that? And then I want you to look at your marketing. Can you charge that price with your current marketing and your current sales channels? Going back to that perceived value of marketing, right now, if your marketing is slapped together, if your website looks like a template and it just like looks a little scammy, there's not much like creativity or branding beside it, if your product photos aren't very professional or polished, it's going to be hard for you to triple your prices and not have a change in your overall product. I actually have had many clients that doubled their pricing and they actually end up making more sales on that product because people trust it. But that's because their marketing and their sales channels have to equal what the perceived value is of that item. So if we double your pricing, you might not sell to the same people. So we have to actually make your marketing and your sales channels and your visuals and your branding match up to that new pricing. Now, I'm not saying that every single person needs to double their prices. That's not the game that I'm in. We have to look at your overall costs. We have to look at what it is, what's going on behind the scenes. And sometimes we have to look at your suppliers. Can we shop suppliers? Can we get things for cheaper so you don't have to increase your pricing? There's other things here, but that is what we have to do. First is we have to look at an income statement, so we know what's coming in and what's going out. Then we have to look at your margins. What is your actual profit margin? Then we can look at your pricing. What do we need to price it at to be profitable? And then we can look at your marketing and your sales channels. Does your marketing match up to that? Do you have the perceived value with your products that you have in order to charge that right now? Pricing is something that many people don't like to look at. Numbers is something in general that many people don't like to look at because it does call you out. But I am here to give you a loving call out that if you are feeling this way, Tammy, there is a leak in your bucket somewhere. And it's either going to be on your pricing, it's going to be in your expenses, it's going to be in your sales channels, or it's going to be in how you're actually managing your money, if it's personal versus professional or all mixed in with one. I obviously can't give you an answer here directly, but from your question, you said, admittedly, I don't know my numbers very well. My sales have been growing, but my bank account isn't. That normally points to a pricing issue. Why that is because your expenses aren't increasing and your sales are increasing, but your profit isn't increasing at all, which tells me you're probably either breaking even or have too low of actual profit on every sale that you have, that you're not actually able to see that grow, which is a good problem to have, because what it's telling me is that you already have the sales, you already have the momentum, you already have the marketing, but we do need to change around either your supplier or your profit if that does land with you. Tammy, I would love to answer. If you want to give me any more context, please come over to my Instagram at This Is Madison page. Anybody else out there, you know my Instagram DMs are always open. I am here to really help you, here to support you, and would love to hear what you have to say about this. We, of course, will be talking about this in our free podcast community, which is the Business Cafe. Click the link in the show notes and you can join the free podcast community there. We do monthly live coaching calls. You can connect with other driven business owners. If you don't have that community, it's a really great place for it. I hope this was helpful for you. If you want me to answer your next business question, you can join that podcast community as well, and I will answer them live on the podcast, just like this. Your pricing is something that you will never regret getting in check. Your profit is something that you will never regret getting in check, because again, your profit is only scary to look at when you're not making any money. Your profit is only scary to look at when you're a little afraid that you might be overspending or that you're not pricing specifically enough. If you are trying to go the long haul, if you're trying to make seven figures, if you're trying to, really be that brand name, you're going to be that big time brand, that household name, we have to have your profit in check, because you probably won't make it there because you'll run out of money or you'll burn yourself out without having any cash to show for it, right? So if you have any questions on this is an episode that I hope you kind of are leaving with a little bit of a pep in your step, a little bit of a love nudge to check out your numbers. Your numbers are really important. They show the health of your business. And without your numbers being healthy, your business is going to be really hard to grow, or you will just end up burning out without any money. And that is a absolute double-edged no-no in my book, right? So I hope that this was helpful for you. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always, and I will see you in the next episode. If you found today's episode helpful and are looking for more tangible ways to grow your business, make sure you are subscribed to the show. If you want to dive deeper into this topic more, click the link in the show notes and join our completely free podcast community, where we dive into every single podcast topic, as well as give some bonus support and free coaching calls. And finally, if you are interested in getting my eyes on your business to find your hidden opportunities to scale, apply to work with me one-on-one in the show notes or on our website. Remember, it's not enough to listen. Don't forget to implement too. I love ya. I'll see you in the next episode.